Have you been wondering why the housing market hasn't plummeted, hasn't crashed? Well, I've got that answer and more coming up. My name's Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. Have you wondered, listen, how is it possible that the housing market hasn't absolutely plummeted? Prices seem stable. What is going on here? Well, it's Econ 101. It is supply and demand. There is very little supply, and there's just enough demand to cover it. Take a look here. Housing market update, home sales are down 23% over the last year. So very few houses are being sold. If you're in the mortgage industry, if you're in the title industry, you feel that. You feel it. This is a huge pinch. Average 30-year mortgage interest rate right now, as I record this, over 7%, and we've been there for a while. Median rent price at a record $1,900 to rent. Rent is outrageous, right? Because if you're renting, you're having to, cover the cost of that house. And so it's gone up with housing, unaffordability and interest rates and all that sort of stuff. Housing affordability index at around 2008 levels. It's awful. And in the U.S., we've got it good compared to other areas, especially Canada, Australia, England, those sorts of things. Nearly 50% of millennials don't own a home. What is going on here? Why hasn't the housing market absolutely plummeted? Well, early on when interest rates started soaring, and I did a few videos on this when interest rates reached 5%, and I remember a fan of the show watches the daily videos, says interest rates are going to get to 7%. And I replied to the comment thinking, I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong. And sure enough, we surpassed 7. So as I was doing those videos and as we were watching the interest rates go up, I said, well, listen, if you've got a 3% mortgage rate, how interested are you in moving? If, that means getting rid of your 3% interest rate and now going to 5.5% or 6.5% or now 7%. You're not interested in that at all. Take a look at this chart. This was published back in the Wall Street Journal a few weeks ago, data back from the end of the first quarter. Take a look at how many mortgages, current mortgages, have an interest rate below 3%. Nearly 2/3 of all mortgages, current mortgages, are below a 4% interest rate. And yes, even though you take a look at new mortgages being written, and that's above 7% right now, and interest rates are fluctuating, of course, but existing mortgages, 2/3 below 4%. So how many people, if you don't have to move, if you'd like to move, you'd like to get a bigger house, you'd like to live in a different neighborhood, you'd like to be in a different school district, if you don't have to move, are you willing and do you have the financial resources to almost double, or in many cases, double your interest rate in doing that move? No. Therefore, because very few are choosing to move, that is keeping supply very low. There are essentially no houses out there on the market. There are some, but there are very little. And therefore, the demand, there will always be some demand. Even in 08 and 09, during the housing crisis, there was some demand because people still were moving. People's jobs were still changing. They were still, in some instances, you had to move. And that's just enough demand to keep prices flat. And so, bigger metropolitan areas, maybe they're down a little bit more than others, but for the most part, it's stable. Maybe down 3-4% I saw recently on average, but that's nothing when you look at how much prices skyrocketed over the past few years and how interest rates have absolutely skyrocketed as well. You would expect with those conditions, housing prices would be down 15 to 20%, and they're flat or down 4% because of the mortgage. Because mortgages, so many people have mortgages at such low rates, no one's really volunteering to move. Okay, so we've all thought it. I've shared that a few times. Seeing the data puts it in a new light. So therefore, how do you apply this? Now, if you are not needing to move, but you'd like to move, and you're just waiting for the right time, well, financially, you're probably looking and saying, I I don't want to pay extra on my mortgage right now because it's at 3.5%, 3.25%. And when we do decide to move, we'll likely be at a higher interest rate. Therefore, I'm not going to put any extra money on my current mortgage. I'd rethink that. Here's what I would do. I would take a look and say, well, how much house, like what's your taste right now? How much would that house cost? Would that new house cost? Do the math to determine, well then, if we sell our existing house for X, we pay a little bit to a realtor, 6%, 8%, something like that, total cost, whatever, and we receive X and we pay off our existing mortgage, we'll have X amount to put down on the new house, and that means the new mortgage will be Y, right? Calculate what that mortgage payment will be at a reasonable interest rate. Maybe if you say, I'm not moving if rates are above 7, but if rates get below 6, maybe we'll look at it. Well, then calculate that mortgage at 5.75%, something like that. Determine what that new payment would be. Compare that to, I'm sure, what your payment is now, which is less, and start making your higher payment, either on your existing mortgage or just make your regular mortgage payment and then take the extra and have it go into a savings account, a separate savings account that you call house fund. Here's 2 reasons why I would do that. Number 1, it starts getting you used to that higher cash flow, that higher cash expense before you make that move. Even if you don't make the move for a couple of years, you're now used to it from a budgeting and planning and cash flow standpoint. Second reason, though, that I would do this, and I wouldn't say it's a terrible thing to even put that money on your mortgage, is because, yes, putting it on your mortgage, why would I pay extra on a 3% mortgage or 3.5% mortgage? Because someday it's going to save you 5.5%, 6%, or 6.5%. Because by paying more on your loan now, that means you're going to have a smaller loan when you move. Now, again, this is the scenario where you say, we want to move. We're going to move. We're just not moving right now. Well, then consider making that higher payment. I wouldn't call that a financial mistake. If you're a mathematician and you're looking and saying, yeah, but my mortgage is only 3% and I could save that money and I could earn 4 in my money market, then fine, do that. Pay your normal monthly amount on your mortgage, but then whatever that difference is, if it's $300 a month, $400 a month, start that going at the exact same time you pay your mortgage, save that amount into a bank account so that you're earning that interest as well. So if you want to move, but you don't want to do so at 7% interest rates, so you're just waiting, calculate that amount, start paying that higher mortgage now, and either pay it onto your existing mortgage so that you've got less debt out there in the future when you do move, or pay it to yourself into a savings account. And then the second application is if you know you need to move. Yeah, we need to. I'm exploring a job change right now, or I'm retiring and we are getting out of Dodge, or whatever it is. Then I would do that exact same math. Okay, I would do that exact same math, and I'd make sure that the new monthly payment fits within your budget and your cash flow. When I bought my first house, interest rates were between 6 and 7%. And at the time, that felt like a great deal, okay? You might remember your first mortgage was at 12% or something if you bought back in the early 80s. So people have had to stomach higher interest rates. And it's challenging because we were just at a historically low time period, but just do the budget, do the math, make sure that whatever that house purchase is still fits within your actual cash flow so that they're still balanced. You might need to sacrifice some things, but look and see what you would need to sacrifice. Well, are we still able to save the right amount? Or if you're approaching retirement, would we need to draw out more or something like that? Do that math and take a planning approach to your home buying decision, even if you have to step up and get a higher mortgage. Then hopefully rates will come down and you can refinance, or working with your CFP, you can figure out a way to pay that mortgage down in an accelerated way so you're not paying that mortgage, that higher interest rate for too long of a time period. Work with your certified financial planner on those things. If you don't have a CFP on your team, contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or send us an email, info@korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.